Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Okay, so we're getting the numbers through here. U.S. initial jobless claims 230K versus 240, and U.S. durable goods -5.2 versus expected -4, and core durable goods 0.5 versus 0.2. So some interesting numbers there. It does appear to be creating quite a bit of volatility. I personally can't make too much from all of that. I really can't make much from that. But, did move. Well, let's come over and look at the charts and see where we're at, yeah? Looks like I got a rollover. Bitcoin rolls over. So here you can see treasuries yesterday turned up in a big way. This morning, a little bit of moderation. Over to the S&P 500, we're pushing up. Nvidia earnings. Oh my gosh. I have never seen anything as wild as Nvidia stock, man. It's just so crazy. How can you have a stock that's like the big mover, everybody's paying attention to it, it's way super overcrowded, and they still beat all of the crazy estimates and surprise the street and go up 5% overnight, and just, you know, from one stock, the whole market is risk on. It's just nuts. I've never seen anything like it. And we got oil here. Oil kind of a little bit of back and forth. Gold and silver did really great yesterday. Gold seems to be coming back a little bit harder today. Kappa coming back a little bit harder today. And we come over to the dollar. Dollar having some strength again this morning. Bitcoin doing some weird stuff. Yesterday, Bitcoin started to look bad. And somebody came in and saved it. Although I feel like that little rise is kind of feels a little pathetic. If you ask me. And I'm seeing all this stuff online about Binance, and I don't know what the deal is, but these are all people that were yapping before the FTX collapse, and they all seem to be acting like they know something. I don't know where it's coming from, but they all seem to think that like Binance is in dire straits right now. So we'll see if anything happens. Okay, so good morning. By the way, thanks Ryan and Alex for telling me the mic was muted. And good morning to Octavius as well. Now, when it comes in here, so first thing in terms of like flows, so we did just have a little bit of news. I think that there are some flows probably still tilted to the upside. We got to be concerned about CTAs possibly flipping long in here. Also, we are going to get a little bit of Fed speak today because the conference starts today, I believe. and they're like doing interviews on CNBC and all of that. I've got on here that Harker's going to speak at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So we're going to have to be on our toes for the Fed speak side. Okay. I want to come through here and check the Twitters. Trump was right to bring up Chris Wallace last night. Look at this clip of the 2020 debates where Chris Wallace repeatedly cuts off Trump when he brings up Burisma. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I remember that. So I watched the debate, and the first thing that I want to say about the debate is screw Fox News. Oh my gosh. There were so many points there in that debate where I'm like, what the heck are they doing? Like the one, I don't see very many people talking about this moment online, but when I saw this, I was flabbergasted. I could not believe what I was seeing. Fox News comes in, makes a thing about climate change, and then says, by the raise of hand, do you believe that climate change is man-made? I could not. And then what happens? Ron DeSantis steps in and is like, no, we're not going to do that. That's stupid. I could not believe it. It was just so, like, I couldn't believe that they asked the question, and I can't believe that Ron DeSantis got away with saying, no, we're not going to do that. I could not believe it. That was so crazy. And that was not the only time that Fox did something like that. Like, okay, thanks. You're coming in trying to just like undermine the whole party right from the get-go, aren't you? All of these criticisms of Fox News that kind of, were leading up to Tucker Carlson leaving, that they do have an agenda, that it's not in the favor of the Republican Party, and that Fox shows some signs of influence by moneyed interests that have taken over the news channel, were like 100% on display last night. And like the difficult thing about it is that the next debate is supposed to be by Fox too. That was really frustrating. I don't agree that the debate overall was a difficult watch though. I love the debates. You know that I love the debates. Republican primary debate is like one of my favoriteest things in the whole wide world. I wouldn't miss it for anything. If my child was being born, I would insist that we watch the debate during the birth. Okay? Like, I love it. And I thoroughly enjoyed that debate. And there was some crazy stuff, man. It got crazy. Like, really wild stuff. I really should, before I get ranting on that too much though, I do need to browse through here, just see if anything. It says Gary Norton, one of many reasons I don't trust the assumptions behind technical analysis. They think you can analyze all markets in the same way. I so agree with you, Gary. Markets and styles are different and you need to find your niche. I don't trust people who claim to be able to trade anything. Certainly feels true in the future space. Like, the way that the treasuries trade is completely different from the equity indexes. And this was in response to a tweet. Chris Sidial, a big pitfall newer traders face is the allure of trying to be good at everything the market has to offer. You shouldn't be trading or opinionated on every market headline. That was entirely stupid, though. I've never considered debates actual debates. Well, listen, I think that what happens is that people will get you, Uzi. This is what I think is happening, is that you're very focused on what you would like to have, right? You're very focused on, this is the way that I think that debates should be. This is the way that I think a candidate should be. This is what I think that the policy should be, right? When the reality is what really actually matters is the reality. And the debates are what they are. I find it entertaining. I know that not everybody will find it entertaining, but the reality of it is that the debates are an extremely influential factor in primary races, especially early on here in these primaries right now. And they can completely change the dynamics of a race. Whether that's going to be happening this time around remains to be seen, but they are what they are, and I just try and look at it for what it is, and trying to see like what's going to happen from this, right? Finding something that doesn't mean you understand well, but so let me tell you what I saw here though, because reading the online discourse about this was a little weird to me. Here's what I think happens. I think that the strong Donald Trump supporters did not watch. I think these guys were like, oh no, I want to watch the Tucker Carlson video. And they went in, they watched that and didn't really watch the debate, or like maybe they caught the clips after or something like that. Because a lot of the commentary that I saw online afterwards just did not match what I watched at all. In fact, many of the comments, so for instance, as an example, on Zero Hedge, they have a story up this morning about the debate that was written very clearly by somebody that is all in on Trump. And one of the things that he said was that Ron DeSantis deferred when it came to the question of whether Mike Pence did the right thing in certifying the election. And he said that, Ron DeSantis refused to answer. That's not true. He did say, I have no beef with him. I'm okay with what he did that day. But I'm more focused on like, why are you even asking this question, and questioning the premise of the question and why we're spending time on that. So I'm seeing a lot of things from some of these people online that are just like not accurate to what happened, and kind of suggests to me that if they were watching, they weren't paying very close attention. You know what I mean? You bailed on the last 30 minutes because of sleep. Okay, dude, yeah, so oh my gosh. So for me, I had to do a release, and at my new work, they only do releases at night. So like most of these guys, they work Eastern time, and so they're doing releases at like 12 o'clock at night. But so yeah, I had to stay up until 11 when I usually go to bed at 9. So I had to stay up an extra 2 hours to do the release. And I'm a little tired this morning. I'm gonna be a little cautious about taking some trades here. But so I watched the debate. I watched the 2 hours of debate, and then I had like an hour before I had to do the release. So I went to watch the Donald Trump thing. It was the same thing. Like I just couldn't do it. Watching the Donald Trump interview was just like the Twilight Zone, man. Like I'm 5 minutes in, and like the first thing that Tucker Carlson is talking about was Epstein kill himself. Like what? Yeah, there's no value there. You're right. There's not. So here's my takeaway from the debate. Okay. Of course, it remains to be seen how this goes. I can see that there is a narrative out there, okay? The Donald Trump supporters, they absolutely want to set a narrative that Donald Trump is a front runner and that none of these other guys stand a chance and that the race is already over. The media absolutely wants to push the same narrative because they are desperate, guys. The media is desperate for Donald Trump to run again. They would love it, frankly, if he was president again, because they are hurting. A lot of newsrooms in this country are like going under. They need something to inject life back into them. They want Donald Trump to win. And so they are absolutely pushing this narrative as well, that like the race is already over. But what I saw last night was a real debate and a real race. And it was a breath of fresh air for me, just because I felt like for the first time since like 2019, we were having like real discussions on policy, because these things that are going on, from the excessive debt, the problems with Bidenomics and inflation coming in, the leaving the border completely open, the challenges that we're facing on the foreign policy front. These are serious things, and because of all of the stupidity that's going on around in politics overall, especially, and I'm not talking about Donald Trump, I'm talking about Joe Biden and just being like an absentee president practically, right? We haven't been able to have like these real discussions. So I loved it. And what I'm seeing is that these guys came to play. They totally came to play. Now, that doesn't mean that they were all successful. DeSantis in particular, I gotta tell you what, that one was so weird. So DeSantis did everything right. Like, one of the key things that I watch for that I think will really separates, like, is the first easy separator, is like, what is the first thing out of their mouth? Because the candidates that really have a serious prep team and are really preparing for the debate well, when they get asked the question or they get the opportunity to respond or whatever the deal is, the first things that are going to come out of their mouth are going to be something that can garner applause, something that can evoke a visceral, emotional reaction from people, like, yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm totally with you on that sort of a thing, right? And Ron DeSantis had that. He had that on almost everything that he said, and it was funny because everybody kind of ignored him. But you know what? Yeah, it was like they were dancing around DeSantis, which was kind of weird. But you know what? I don't think it really helped him. And I can see this thing now that, like, DeSantis has a really strange stage presence. It's like something about his neutral resting face kind of looks like like I'm trying to feign a smile, but I'm really uncomfortable right now, you know? And it just kind of like counteracted everything great that because I felt like that Ron DeSantis's performance was like textbook debate. Like, you want to do well in a debate, like, this is what you do. And I would just study what DeSantis did. It was like perfect. And yet I don't think that Ron DeSantis is going to go up in the polls after this. Do you? It was really bizarre. Okay. But on the other hand, there were other candidates that were quite serious. Yeah, Uzi says no, which I think means you also agree that you don't think Ron DeSantis is going to rise in the polls. Okay. So now you also mentioned Pence. You was like, everybody else on the stage was a waste of space. Yeah, Pence really impressed me. I still don't like him, to be honest with you. He's just not my guy. I don't feel like Mike Pence really has the same priorities as I do. And I don't think that if you put Mike Pence in, that it would really do a whole lot of good on anything, you know? But he has experience. He was well prepared. He had good moments. He was, and not only that, but when it came to the whole thing about talking about certifying the election and all of that, because, you know, I thought that was always, well, it probably still will be like one of the come to Jesus moments is if we have a debate where if Trump ever attends one of these debates, and then they get to battle it out on the stage and see who wins. But when it was Pence versus Vivek, or, you know, just them in general talking about it, I thought he did a very, very good job explaining himself and putting that to rest, at least at the debate, for instance, right? So I feel like that for me, Pence went from like, why the heck are you even running, to a serious contender. The other person, though, that you did not mention that I also felt did really well was Nikki Haley. In fact, I would say that if anybody benefited from the debate last night the most, it will be Nikki Haley. And what I think may start to happen is you will start to see some of these floaters, these people that are like, well, I don't want Donald Trump, but I don't know if we have a really viable alternative. Who is the candidate that's going to like consolidate the support so that there's actually like a decent chance against Donald Trump? And I think that you're going to see a lot of those people start moving to Haley. I really do. Because, like, really, and it's not like I'm a Haley fan or anything. I'm trying to be neutral. Obviously I have opinions, okay? Yeah, I haven't really gotten into my strong opinions about this, right? I can't stand this I'm a woman BS. I don't know, man. So let me try and make my case here, okay? Pence gets some credit for me. Chris Christie also seems to have a heart. Well, you know, Chris Christie did okay. But I kind of felt like Chris Christie is like that boxer that spends the whole fight going for haymakers and is never really able to land good hits and loses on points. You know what I mean? Because he would come out and he would have like, oh my gosh, that Chat GPT line that he used against Vivek, just I thought that was so great. That was like so funny. And I really encapsulated that how I was feeling about Vivek at the moment. But then, like, it was every time that he did that, and he came in and was like, you know, insulted somebody, but then there was like no follow up. You know, like the one that really bothered me with Chris Christie was, remember the point in the debate where he's talking about the indictments and so forth, right? And the January 6th thing and all of that. And he's getting booed, like hardcore booed. He can't even talk. He decides to pause. Fox News like turns around and is like, we can just wait for you to be quiet. The longer the longer it will take, and all of that sort of stuff. And so then he has the opportunity to actually talk. And then what does he say? Well, Donald Trump wanted to suspend the Constitution. Okay, well, so here's the thing about that, okay? He is referring to a tweet that Donald Trump posted in 2022 on Trump Social, where Donald Trump said that in a situation like this, the president has the authority to suspend the Constitution or do whatever is necessary to protect the integrity of the election. Whatever. He said that. He did, okay? He said you suspend the election, okay? Very few people read that tweet. Few people know what he's talking about. They think that Trump was asking Pence to suspend the election, which I don't think is true. And I don't think that most Republicans see it that way. I think the way that most Republicans see it as a procedural maneuver that maybe it would have worked and maybe it wouldn't have. I think that Pence did the right thing, because even though technically he could do it, there's no guarantee that it would have worked out. You could have gone through that whole thing. Even if he had decertified the election, Supreme Court said, yes, they're right. They went and redid the recount. And then even then it might come back out that Joe Biden was the winner. And then you just put the country through this whole big long ordeal for nothing. You know, it's just not worth it. in my opinion. I think that there are some social norms around elections that were violated. And so ultimately, I think that Chris Christie is correct about the issue. But, like, that's your haymaker? You know, well, it just didn't land. You know, and so every time that he had one of these crazy insults or like good lines, but then when it was coming down to like explaining and saying why you're right, it like fell flat every time. It was just like it was like he was trying to debate for the Twitterati, you know, like he was playing to the journalists and the party insiders. And not actually speaking to the actual electorate about, you know, why he's a good choice and why what had happened is a bad thing and all of that, right? Okay. But back on Nikki Haley. Here's the thing with Nikki Haley, okay? When you're just looking at numbers, Nikki Haley has the best chance. Like, just that she's a woman, I know it's stupid. I know it seems stupid, okay, but these affect the way that people vote, and one of the biggest vulnerabilities that the GOP has right now is women voters, and that alone probably gives Nikki Haley the best chance of any candidate at winning an election. Just going down through those numbers, I'm pretty confident that Nikki Haley has the best chance, just on that alone. But then the other thing is that the biggest millstone around the neck of the Republican Party is this abortion issue. And she says the one thing that I've been saying this whole time, that I don't understand why the party doesn't freaking get this. Stop with this fear campaign trying to convince the rest of the country that we need to go back to the pre-pill. It's not going to happen. There's not enough support in Congress for you to have any kind of law or anything like that. The only thing that you could possibly do, and the thing that Republicans should be talking about, is banning late-term abortion. Being able to abort the baby like the day before they would be born is absolutely abhorrent. The majority of the country agrees with the GOP on this. And if they were pushing that, it would put a schism with the Democrats and would completely neutralize the issue for them. And Republicans just can't seem to do it. It's like they want to lose. They can't just say, okay, let's take the easy win. They don't want to do it. And Nikki Haley came in and said it. Then on top of that, when she was arguing with Vivek about the whole Ukraine thing, she demolished him, man. She came to play. I'm telling you. What is she right now? So we should come and look a little bit. Predict it. I think that a lot of people are going to dislike my political analysis, but my objective here is a little different from what most people are looking at when they're going in here. And I'm just telling you, like, if I was going to go and make a bet on Predict It, I would be buying Nikki Haley. So let's see if we can come into the 24 hour. Was there any changes? I'm going to bet not, just because Predicted is kind of like a dead market now. Nobody really uses it anymore. Nah. Doesn't look like there was any shifts over. Well, actually. Okay, so Ramaswamy declined. And Haley increased a tiny bit. I'm telling you. Nikki Haley has, in terms of like the issues and the voters that are available for her to pick up, stands the best chance in a general election. She would get the most votes of any of those candidates in a general election, almost without question. And the whole thing was just like, well, yeah, but she doesn't excite the party. The party doesn't like her, or whatever the deal is. And it was always kind of like, well, why? Now, at the beginning of this campaign, my criticism of her was, you're not playing to win, you're playing to be Donald Trump's VP pick. And the way that she was kind of running her campaign was like, I want to be Donald Trump's VP pick. But last night, she came to play. She really did come to play. And I guarantee you, party insiders are talking about it. And they're saying, you know, DeSantis doesn't seem to be doing it. If we need to switch, they're almost certainly going to Nikki Haley at this point. Nikki Haley or Mike Pence. And I'm honestly, like, really kind of game it out, okay? Mike Pence is a non-starter. He's just not. I don't think that if it went head-to-head that Mike Pence could beat Donald Trump, okay? Because what's going to happen is there's a majority of the GOP at this point, from what I can tell, that do not want Donald Trump to be their nominee again. Okay, most people do not want it to be a Trump versus, you know, whoever the president is right now, whose name escapes me at the moment. I did not get enough sleep last night. Clearly, I'm having some difficulty. Okay, pulling in Biden. Okay, majority of people do not want Trump Biden 2.0. Okay. So you have to consolidate around somebody, but there are too many people in the party that are absolutely not Mike Pence. They think that Mike Pence is a traitor, etc., etc., etc. And that's probably about 20 to 30% of the party that will not support Mike Pence. So it can't be Pence. It just straight up, it can't be Pence. Okay. So who do you go to? If you think that Ron DeSantis is not doing it, then who do you go to? And before the debate, a lot of people were saying, Tim, what's his last name? But he just didn't have it. Tim Scott. Yes, Tim Scott. Tim Scott just didn't have it, man. I mean, it was not like he did anything wrong, but it's like when he was given the opportunity to speak, he just didn't utilize it. You know, if you want them to give you more opportunities to speak, you've got to take the reins of it. And you know, there was one point where he was like, you know, I want to talk. This is important. But you're saying that something that nobody cares about. You're not really connecting with people. So I don't, you know, a lot of people were saying, oh, I like Scott. Maybe it could go to Scott. I think that ship has sailed. I don't think that he did well enough in the debate for the party insiders to go that direction. Chris Christie, he's trying. It doesn't seem like he has it. And so I really think that it's DeSantis Haley. On the establishment side, it's 100% DeSantis Haley. And the whole question is, and the whole point of this whole discussion was this. I believe that in the end, and we'll have to see, because this is a really hard one to predict, okay? But I actually think that Donald Trump made a mistake and that he was a loser last night. If Donald Trump had done the debate, he would have come on stage and they would have pushed all of those things against him, and he would have said the things that he always says, and the crowd would have loved it, and it would be over. I really think if Donald Trump had been at that debate last night, it would be over. And what happened instead was there's this real race going on outside of Donald Trump. And all of the people that don't want Donald Trump to be president will eventually consolidate around a candidate. And when this comes into later in the primary season, I think it's going to be a problem for him. I don't think that he's just going to sell to the nomination like y'all saying. New Jersey is a shithole and any candidate from there is a shit. Yeah, he just didn't have it. Now, I've kind of been ignoring the major thing here, and that is Vivek. Oh my gosh. That whole thing was just so wild. Sale is a strong word to use for any guy that might be in prison by the well, that's true too. But that's helping Donald Trump. Like That's the other thing that I just drives me crazy, is that if it wasn't for all of these indictments against him, I don't think that Donald Trump would be doing as well as he is. Because when it comes down to, like, you know, like DeSantis falling in the polls, okay, so I can see here in the debate, DeSantis has a real problem. He's got a real stage presence problem that, although I know it seems like dumb, like, should that really be the thing that determines like who president is and everything? But in my experience, it really matters a lot. Okay. It was probably a major factor behind why Mitt Romney lost. Okay. But he just didn't have it, you know? But when he fell in the polls, I think that a major part of that was because of the Trump indictments. And frankly, probably Ron DeSantis not coming out in aggressive defense of Donald Trump against the indictments was probably a major factor behind him falling. Because you can definitely see there with it, like when it came down to Vivek, right? What does Vivek have going for him? Unapologetically supportive of Donald Trump in every way, shape, and form. And that's why they like him, right? That's why I say, because if you go and you look at the polls, in fact, I think we can come and look at this. Because I think the one poll that is, I don't know, the numbers that you're going to see, I don't think are real, okay? But if there's a poll that people look at, it's the Drudge Report, right? I don't visit I used to visit the Drudge Report all the time, and I don't anymore because I did not like the way that news outlet went after Donald Trump came along, because they kind of started to become anti-Trump. Okay, so who won the first Republican debate? And I'm saying if win is who's going to get the biggest boost coming out of it, I'm predicting Haley. Okay, but who is at the top? Ramaswamy. 38,000 votes. Well, there's actually not as many people voted in this poll as I thought. 100,000, 116,000 total votes. But they have, oh, now it's interesting. Haley is number 2. Oh, so I'm not the only person that saw that. That's interesting. But I digress. So what's the deal with Ramaswamy? Well, I saw all of these people saying they loved him. Doesn't sound to me like any of you guys here in chat speaking right now liked him. So what was it? Because I'm getting that vibe from Uzi. What was it that Keller said? Vivek was a joke. Oh my gosh, that guy is atrocious. And this is where I come back in, like, did they actually watch the debate? Because I thought Vivek was awful. Oh, I thought he was so awful. Like, I came in thinking, I think Vivek is kind of a dilettante. I don't think he's really actually serious. He doesn't seem like a serious candidate, but he is rising in the polls. He is unapologetically Donald Trump. I think we're going to see some of that and see why there are some people in the primary are really supporting him, right? And instead, I came out just not being able to overlook how much I just dislike this man on a personal level. Like, it's not like it's personal, but just hearing him talk and how he behaves and everything, I don't like him. I don't like him. So I want to try and analyze this. I want to make thinking about making a video. And like, here's the thing is I could make a video. Okay. I'm talking about something then. Don't worry about that. I have this thing where I have to turn on focus assist. I probably should do that. I just got to remember to turn it off when we get done with the stream. Vivek called ChatGPT the fattest one. No, so I started writing a script for a video that's like, let's do the deep dive. Here is what Vivek did, and here's why I think that his debate performance was actually like one of the worst debate performances ever. right? Because to me, it's like, it's starting to become a thing now where every primary election cycle, some billionaire has to jump into the race and embarrass themselves, right? Last time it was Andrew Yang, and I guess Michael Bloomberg too, right? But this time I think it's Vivek. And a lot of people liked him, but I don't think that they're really watching. I think that they only like him because they're diehard Trump supporters and they're not seeing the bigger thing that's going on here. Because what's really happening, I think, is Vivek is trying to use the Donald Trump playbook and just failing miserably at it. What happened so we're talking about the Republican debate. And so let me try and give you this context, okay? Going into this race, Ron DeSantis was the leader of the field. And at least, the primary challenger to Donald Trump. And over the past month or two, he has lost that support. It's either gone to Trump or it's fractioned amongst the other people. Okay. And one of the people that has started to rise in the past month was Vivek Ramaswamy, because he's got the social media presence. He's the millennial, he's the tech guy, and he pushes the social media angle, and he almost certainly has a social media manipulation team that is being really effective. And so he's getting those viral moments and stuff and rising in the polls. Okay, so like that's the context. Okay, and here's what happened. Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, and Mike Pence are all incensed that Vivek Ramaswamy has passed them in the polls. It was literally like right out the gate, they were out to take out Ramaswamy, completely unprompted. Like Mike Pence was saying stuff about Ramaswamy from the get-go without Ramaswamy having done anything. It was like their whole strategy was like, come in and use Vivek as a punching bag the whole thing. How dare you pass this in the polls? That's what it was. 100% it was. Don't you think? Now, normally, I would think that would play to Ramaswamy's strength, because that's what happened with Donald Trump. Was all of these establishment candidates despised him, and Trump fed off of it and just made them look like fools. And this time around, I think it was the exact opposite. Now, why does it come out that way? And I think that there's a couple of things. One of them is that Ramaswamy's answers do not actually come off as genuine. So one of the problems that you have, for instance, I think that the first strong moment that he had was like when Ramaswamy came in and said, look, that's really easy. You do X, Y, Z, PDQ, and then everything will be fine. Okay, great. He listed all of these things that Republicans love, protect the border, all of this sort of stuff, right? Okay, but you're really going to say it's that easy? Like, come on. Most of these people that are going to be voting, guys, we've been watching this whole time. Like, we know what's going on. We know that it's not easy. You're not just going to float in there and pass everything that you want, right? Any politician that says that is either naive or trying to pull a fast one on you. And it seems to me like he's trying to pull a fast one on you. So how do you come in and you put a list off like that? Well, he memorized it. It's a memorized list. And you'll notice time and time again that he will like bring things up. He'll like demur and try and shift things over into a different issue. Like when we're talking about the Ukraine war and he tries to shift it into a discussion on the border, right? Because he's like, he has all of his prepared statements and he's trying to shift the conversation to where he can use his soundbite thing, and it wasn't working for him. It was kind of like the Rubio syndrome, right? Where you just like, you're going off on robot mode and it just doesn't quite fit. And so the sense that I get from this guy is that before the election started, he's joking with his billionaire friends like, oh yeah, I could totally run for an election like as a Republican. It would be so easy. Just like, I just have to throw the red meat out and say what Republicans want me to hear and be totally full pro-Trump. It'll be easy. And the funny thing about that is, like, that's the criticism that everybody always made about Donald Trump. Like, Donald Trump doesn't really actually believe any of these things. He just wants to be president because he's a narcissist. And he doesn't believe these things. Although I think at this point, almost everybody would agree that he really does believe these things. If he didn't believe them before, he does now. He's convinced himself. And that Donald Trump, like, just simply lacks the self-control to not speak out, you know? But that's not the sense that I get from Vivek at all. Nothing feels genuine to me about what he says. And then on top of that, when it came into, like, serious policy and, like, actually debating, he was just terrible in every way. Nikki Haley was just throwing line after line after line, defending the whole Ukraine thing, making really excellent points, making Vivek look like a fool, and Vivek was stumbling all over himself. He was absolutely terrible under pressure. And all he can do is say, oh, well, that's because you guys are all bought out by the defense companies. And I'm sitting here like, dude, you're a pharmaceutical billionaire. Don't try and pull this thing that you don't have moneyed interests. Come on. Because we all know when it comes to political manipulation, pharmaceutical industry, one of the worst. So I felt like Vivek did very poorly. It's curious to me that on Predict It, that there was people betting against him when that whole thing was going on. Yeah, Vivek is disingenuous as AF. He reminds me of Cory Booker, not in his positions, but in his obvious disingenuous tone. Yep. Well, and that's another thing. I like his confidence and his energy. Vivek is that guy that, like, every time that you talk to him, he's just so overly excited and you know, wants to talk to you and, hey, how are the kids doing? And you're just like, nah, you don't care about me. That's just your strategy that you use to try and get to the top. The enthusiasm doesn't feel genuine. Because frankly, it's not. Sorry. Nobody's that excited about everything all the time. Just nobody is, right? You're faking it. Trump would have used his finger better than all of him. Sorry, I should come in here. It's not. Sometimes on my chat window, they added this little, like, heart thing, and so sometimes it's hard for me to see the last word that you guys said. This is kind of funny. So yeah, I really didn't like Vivek. But I want to know, what do you guys think? Would you enjoy watching that video? Should I go on that political channel? You think it's terrible? Because the issue that I have is that, like, I think that I can make a pretty good case showing the video and everything as to why Vivek did so terrible. And I could go and put it on my other channel, and it would probably get a lot of views. But the fact of the matter is that the audience that would watch that video don't want to hear it. You think Trump can get the help of Robert? I don't know anything about that. Octavius says no. It sounds like you say no, we shouldn't waste time on making that. Because that is kind of like my issue here is, like, I could work really hard the next 3 days and try and record something over the weekend and try and have a video out on the political channel about the debate. But I also need to make a video about this this laptop dock and about smart money concepts and all of that. And I'm kind of like, yeah, you're going to put in a lot of work for a video that's, like, going to take off and then not do anything. I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know, but I kind of want to make the video because I really didn't like him. I don't know how to put it. You're going to be hated by Republicans and liberals, of course. Well, Lafta says make it. It's always going to be that because I'm always going to come out with the take that people don't like. So if you're with me, I think that Uzi understands this, right? I'm going to give you takes that you don't hear elsewhere. I just am. Because the reality of it is that my mind works differently from the average person's. I see the world differently from the average person. The average person has a lot of heuristics and neural networks that allow them to make a lot of these gut check decisions about what's going on in the world very, very quickly. And I do not have that ability. I see every teeny tiny little piece of data and every single one of them distracts me, and I have to go through it logically before I can dismiss it, and then I have to go through that and do that with everything. And then come to the conclusions that I do. And so that means that I'm always going to come out on one particular issue in a way that some Republicans don't like, and I'm going to come out on some other issue in a way that some liberals don't like. And most people in my position have will come in and say, okay, well, here's my audience, and I need to not say the things that my audience would dislike. I need to avoid the topics that the audience doesn't like, right? And I just don't care. I say what I want to say, and yeah, it will hold you back. But it's not any more reason that I'm right. No. But it is going to be I'm going to come out with a take that you're probably not going to hear. Because what I just said, that's definitely not what you're going to be seeing on any other analysis of the debate, right? Almost every other thing that you read about the debate today is probably going to be, well, Trump is still going to be the nominee, so it doesn't matter. I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that the Nikki Haley thing is okay, so it is different. Yes, but it also isn't. Because look at the Drudge Report poll. Look at the Drudge Report poll. ZB pushing highs. Yeah, the treasuries have been relatively range bound, but you're right. The ZB is kind of pushing up and is kind of... Oh, I just lost the camera. I'm sorry. I think I accidentally left it on last night and it didn't charge. I will just turn the camera off for now. Sorry, guys. But look at the Drudge Report poll. Haley was second with 21%. This is, okay, so realclearpolitics.com. Let us come back and look at this. Okay, National GOP. Okay. Haley was 3.2 overall. Like, come on. It's not even it's like not even close. Right? She was like a non-factor. For her to come out and be beating out DeSantis in the Drudge poll is really something else, and suggests to me that I'm not the only person that saw this happening, that Haley performed very well at the debate and probably helped herself more than anybody else. Because really, if you come in and look at these numbers, okay, so DeSantis is 14, Ramaswamy is 7. Okay, how much of that is like recent defectors? I'm going to say about 5% of that. Well, not 5%, like 3% of that. So you can get 3% from Ramaswamy, 2 from Pence, so that gives us 5, And then you could probably take a third to half of DeSantis's. So let's say that's puts us at 11 or 12%. Get all of Scott's. So that will, let's say we're at 15%. Yeah, she could very quickly be breaching 15% support after this debate. And I'm not even joking. And the issue here is that once somebody starts to consolidate, then everybody goes, okay. And then all of a sudden, it's Trump versus Haley or Trump versus DeSantis, right? And I don't know. Well, so in this poll right now, Trump is 55. So maybe he can't be beaten if he already is above 50%. I don't know. Probably held herself more than anyone else, I agree, but you're looking at the tallest midget in the room, though. Or perhaps that's just that in the end, I don't want to see Trump versus Biden again. And largely more largely speaking, I'm just not a fan of Trump anymore. I was down when he was running and it became clear that he was going to be the Republican nominee, and it was like, okay, let's do this. But after he lost the election, everything that he's done since then has just rubbed me the wrong way. And so perhaps it's just my own hope that somebody is able to pull it off and beat him in the Republican primary, and everybody thinks that probably not. But so far, we are seeing one thing that I think that I had predicted this whole time that, you know, I think was really on full display yesterday. These primaries are not just going to be like a walk in the park. They're going to be a real battle. It's going to be a fierce battle. And it was. And it was one of the most interesting debates we've had, in my opinion. And that is not to Donald Trump's advantage. So while Donald Trump is probably still the favorite, of course, probably. I mean, he's almost certainly still the favorite. I think that he lost last night. I really do. I think that the reason he lost is because there is a real race going on without him. And that means that there's a risk that one of those candidates consolidates their support and is able to challenge him. And that's not to Donald Trump's advantage. I think that if he had gone to the debate, that he would have dominated the debate, sucked all of the air out of the room, and it would be a completely different conversation. And then it really would be like, this is over, because just none of these people can stand up to him. But instead, he skipped the debate. He did the thing with Tucker Carlson. And the thing that he did with Tucker Carlson was just like a freaking joke, frankly. Like, I'm loving this debate because they're talking about policy and everything. And then I'll go over and watch Tucker Carlson, and what's the first thing they're talking about? Did Epstein really kill himself? Okay. Jeez. More people want someone to stand up to a politics that has devolved into arresting political appointments than they want a return to the Reagan-Bush shit on the Republican side. Okay, but why does that mean that we have to support Donald Trump? We have to vote Donald Trump in the election. It can be both. It can be both true at the same time that both. Why are my words not sounding correctly? That the grammar there was wrong. Okay. But it can both be true that Donald Trump is being unfairly prosecuted for political reasons and that he's no longer the best choice for the Republican nominee. Okay? Like, We know Ben Shapiro. Then why is everybody voting like that? That's why they have to vote for him. Like honestly, what the party has turned into a litmus test on whether or not you still support Donald Trump. And I'm just like, it's over, guys. Like, move on. Don't get it. I mean, I totally understand. So I thought, and maybe this is still true, but, you know, one of the copes that you could be using to try and explain how is Donald Trump doing so well right now, one of the copes that you can use is that, you know, a lot of people aren't paying attention, you know, so maybe a lot of these people that they did really support him before, they still support him, they're not really paying attention. And so you might be able to argue that, you know, as the primary season heats up and you start to have more of a direct, you know, interaction between the candidates and everything, people kind of start to go, oh, and come to slightly different conclusions and like things shift, right? Or you could say it's just name recognition. Nobody really knows who these other candidates are, and once one of them consolidates support and they start hearing about them on the news, then you start to see the polls shift as well. But it doesn't seem like that's what's going on, does it? It seems like that what's going on, and you see this most prominently on display with Ramaswamy, right? Like Ramaswamy having so many people saying that they liked him and that he won the debate tells me that it's about more than that. That this whole GOP primary is basically becoming a referendum on whether or not you still support Donald Trump. Do you think that a plurality of Republican voters are or should just take having one of their candidates arrested and jailed by the opposition party? I think that having one of your candidates jailed by the opposition party doesn't mean that that candidate that they were jailing was the best choice and that we have to support him because of it, right? Because the reality is that if you put him into office, it's just going to get worse, guys. You think they're going to stop when Donald Trump wins the election? If Donald Trump wins the election again, or if Donald Trump loses the election, like if you pick him as your nominee and he loses against Biden, you think it's going to go away? Guys, this is all those Democrats have left because seriously, Biden is the weakest incumbent in American history. He is the weakest incumbent in American history. The dog catcher could beat him in a primary or sorry, in a presidential election. All you got to do is just not pick the one guy that 40% of the country hates. That's all you got to do. And you would handily beat Biden. We don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. And you think that putting Donald Trump in there, that he's going to fix it? He can't. I'm sorry, guys. But he is incapable of doing it. Donald Trump does not have the tactical and political skill to pull this off. He had everything going for him to be able to try and tackle this challenge, and he completely failed at almost every turn in trying to deal with this swamp problem. And if you put him in office, it just gives more reason for the swamp to organize and get stronger against him. And then you have a real problem, because then it's going to turn into, well, we were able to take care of Donald Trump so handily. Now we're going to do it to every GOP candidate. That's totally where it's going. Yeah, you have to get a Republican in there and put a stop to this shit. Absolutely. But I'm telling you, it's not going to be Donald Trump that fixes it. If you put any other well, I don't think that that's true at all. Even Nikki Haley as being the moderate, like this is where I think it like really gets crazy, right? Is like, why is Nikki Haley the moderate? Because she thinks that we should focus on late-term abortion rather than trying to tell everybody that we need to go back to pre-pill society. Really, guys. Who would you pick if it was tomorrow? I really couldn't say. I really don't know. I think that if it was tomorrow, that I would probably vote Ron DeSantis just because he's the largest challenger to Trump on the GOP side. But I don't think that it would work out if the vote was held tomorrow, was it? It would be Donald Trump. It would win if there was an election tomorrow. So let's see. What were you saying here about Keller? Oh yeah, then Ramaswamy jumps in and declares climate change is a hoax. That was like, oh my gosh, man. You likely wouldn't vote, to be honest. There's definitely a larger cultural issue at stake here, because Democrats believe that using your own office for political means and to advance your political agenda is a virtuous thing. Like, that's really what it comes down to. These DAs think they're doing a virtuous thing. They don't think it's an abuse of their office. They think that Donald Trump is a danger to the country, and if I'm doing something to hurt Donald Trump, then that's a good thing. And if I have the opportunity to do it, it's my moral obligation to do it. They don't understand this thing that, like, politics is a particularly destructive force in society, and that you really have to separate it out from certain parts of society in order to actually have a civil society, right? And when you start turning this into, we're going to indict, especially when you do it with the justice system. So when you intermingle the justice system with politics, you undermine the entire everything. I mean, you undermine the justice system, but really, like, it undermines the entire country as a whole, and they need to stop. The reality is that there are many presidents that did things while they were in office that are frankly illegal. Just straight up illegal things that they 100% could have been indicted for after office, and the take had always been, you just leave them alone and let it be, because you don't want to create this political influence in the justice system. Okay. Do I have to give you examples? Okay. Nixon, I guess Nixon, he resigned and everything, but Nixon was doing things that were like straight up illegal. There weren't even the things that they were talking about and accusing him of, that we found out about like 30 years later, and 100 totally illegal, right? Obama, frankly, did some things that are totally illegal and prosecutable, like lying about things. There was many of his people in his cabinets that just like straight up lied about things, right? Nothing ever comes of it. Yep, the spying thing, the abusing the office to literally spy on a political opponent, right? They all said that, you know, this is a delusion, that Donald Trump is making shit up, and then turns out, everything that he said was 100% true. Nobody's prosecuting Obama. Because the social norm is that you don't go after political opponents with the judicial system, because it's damaging to the society. And then all of a sudden, liberals that got into this mode that, you know, abusing your power is actually a virtuous thing, right? I don't know what you do about that. Because I kind of think that it's one of those Pandora boxes sort of thing where once you've opened the box, you can't put it back in the box, and now it will forever be a problem. That, you know, certain DAs in some state will always be trying to abuse their office for, you know, in relation to presidential politics. Like, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if when we have another Republican in 2028, because regardless of how this goes, it's going to be somebody in 2028 that's not Donald Trump, right? And they start trying to pull these same kind of shenanigans on them. It's going to happen. Are any of you Democrats out there that think, well, it's just because Donald Trump is a unique threat to our country, and yet no. I'm telling you, they're going to pull the same shit to the next Republican. Guarantee it. Why vote anymore? Nothing changes. All that occurs is shuffling of players for another election. Okay, so that's true to an extent. There are major problems in our country. Take, for instance, easy example, entitlement spending. Our social security system is not sustainable, and they're going to have to make some change to it. And the Republicans, or sorry, the politicians don't want to change it. Well, that's a tough one to change. And who do you vote for to fix that one? There's nobody you can vote for to fix that one. It's just not gonna happen. Okay, but who is president? I gotta tell you, this is something that the average person I think just does not understand, because they're not really looking at all of the political headlines and looking at kind of the behind the scenes picture of what's going on in politics, okay? But who is president and who is head of the House for the different parties has a very, very, very significant impact on culture as a whole, okay? All of this woke stuff and the direction that the Democrat Party has gone is almost entirely in a product of Nancy Pelosi's, 12 years at the head of the House. Okay. And you wouldn't have this woke virus going around in our country if you never had Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi as leaders. So who your president is does matter. Who the head of the both the Democrats and the Republicans in the House, because they're the ones that kind of control the party strategy, matters considerably and has a considerable impact on what are the issues that we discuss, what is kind of the cultural battle, etc., etc., etc. And so, yes, I would not expect to see some of the larger problems in America be solved anytime soon. They're going to wait until it just simply can't be ignored anymore, and then even then, they're probably just going to put a patch over it. Okay? But that doesn't mean that your vote doesn't matter and that it's not important. Do you think that DeSantis did good by laying back? I'm not sure. He avoided being the target, which was good, but I don't think he really grabbed the voters either, and that's what he needs. Okay, so yeah, I don't think that Ron DeSantis's problem is an attention problem. I think that everybody that's engaged in the Republican primary has looked at Ron DeSantis at one point or the other and, has tried to make a decision on him. I think that a lot of people were just going along with, well, he seems like the best challenger. And when it no longer seemed like maybe he's the only real serious challenger, that's when I think you started to see his support like really collapse. Okay, because people realized that the field was more open than that. But in my opinion, Ron DeSantis's problem is stage presence. He can come up and he can say all of the right things, but it just doesn't enthuse people, because there's something about his face and his body language and so forth that just does not inspire enthusiasm. So Ron DeSantis has like the Mitt Romney problem, but it's worse, right? Like Mitt Romney, his problem was that he had a poor stage presence because he was too stiff, right? Ron DeSantis, it's not that he's too stiff and proper and, you know, like obviously a rich guy. Ron DeSantis is just awkward. You know, Ron DeSantis looks like if you took any of us here and put us up on the stage, yeah, we would feel uncomfortable, you know? And I'm sure that everybody feels uncomfortable, but most presidents are able to overcome that and you know, it really they push forward with confidence and they're able to inspire confidence in everybody. I tell you what, Chris Christie said something at that debate that I thought was one of the most insightful things, public comments I had ever seen about presidents, that said to me that this guy actually understands what leadership is about. What did he say? He said the president's job is to make everybody in the country better, right? You're supposed to look at the president and see the things that the president is saying and inspired to be a better citizen, to work harder, to do and be your best self. That's what a leader does. Is a leader enables you by partnering with that leader to become your best self. That's why I'm no longer with Donald Trump, because I thought that it was, you know, it was worth a shot. I thought that he had some interesting ideas. He tried, he failed. And in the end, Donald Trump did not inspire us especially on the Republican side, to become our best selves. He made the Republicans the worst versions of themselves, in my opinion. It's an absolutely important quality. And do you look at what Ron DeSantis is when he talks and want to be, you know, the best citizen? You don't. He says all of the right things, but he just doesn't inspire that thing in people because it's like his stage presence. And I think that's his problem. So if he had not laid back and gotten more involved in those battles back and forth and this and that, I mean, it would help him from like an attention perspective, but it wouldn't solve his fundamental problem. I don't want Republicans to be more moderate Democrats. I don't understand why is it wanting Republicans to look at reality and not base all of their policy on conspiracy theories mean that we want them to be like Democrats? That's just not the case. I want Republicans to be strategic. Okay? I think that abortion is a bad thing overall. I think that society probably would be better off if we went back to free the pill. Okay? Like, honestly, that's honestly what I believe. I don't like the pill. When we got married and my wife was, you know, on the pill, I was like, no, don't do that. It messes you up. I want you to be you, and we use other methods to deal with those problems. I don't like the pill, okay? But I don't think it's a good idea to go out and make that the center of your campaign or your policy platform like Republicans have been doing. I think that you focus on the easy, in politics is the art of attracting support to your cause. And how do you do that? You get little wins, guys. Go for the easy wins. Late-term abortion is such an easy win for Republicans, and they don't want to do that. How is that make the Republicans more moderate Democrats? It doesn't. It just means, like, be smart. You've got to be smart, savvy political operators. You're not going to solve these problems by just smacking your head into it, guys. You're just not. We tried that for 4 years. It didn't work, okay? I agree that DeSantis is awkward. He seems bitter, like he's holding it in, but just below the surface, he has this stern, angry type totally does. I think that Ron DeSantis probably does have a temper. Don't you think? I don't know. Have we had reports that he has a temper? I bet you he has a temper. I'm kind of like veering into maybe mind reading territory with that one, but I think that he can get angry for sure. And like maybe that's the thing, is that he doesn't have the face of somebody that's smiling all the time. He doesn't. And you can absolutely see those things in people's faces because it changes their muscles and stuff. You can see it in me. I'm not a person that smiles all the time, am I? Wow. By the way, we did push a little bit higher. That was kind of interesting because what happened was the 5-year just came roaring back. You know, was the 30-year was at the top and then the 5-year swung back up. Now, it's not yet to the, okay, this is like another strong trend update sort of a thing. But they're kind of on the precipice. This is the same place that we were at yesterday where I was like, well, I don't know if they're actually going to continue on, and I don't think I should get involved. And then they broke higher, and it was just like crazy, and I really regretted not doing it. But I'm going to do the same thing today. I'm not going to take it. Oh, I wouldn't want to have a beer with him. Yeah, I think you'd want to have a beer with DeSantis. But to that point, I don't think that Nikki Haley would have a beer with me either. I don't. Vivek would, but I wouldn't want to be there. He's annoying. Oh, totally. I would love to have a beer with Trump. Yeah, you know, here's the thing that I find so interesting about Donald Trump is that, like, you go and you watch that interview that he did with Tucker Carlson. It's just so classic Trump. And, like, it seems so stereotypical. Almost like he's a parody of himself at this point. And yet, at the same time, he's not. Like, I can't predict what he's going to say. He's a smart guy. He's not stupid. Well, he always gets portrayed as like this stupid guy that's just acting on narcissism. You don't get that when you're watching him. He seems genuine. He knows what's going on. He's smart. And I find it so odd that like he's the caricature of himself, but he's not at the same time. Right? Of course, the thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way about this whole situation last night was that we're trying to have like serious policy discussions, and there was nothing serious about the interview that he did. It was basically vanity, right? I don't think that Trump is a narcissist, like that he has narcissistic personality disorder or any of this kind of stuff, but he is high in the narcissism trait, and it's pretty easy to get him to veer off on praising himself. And that was basically the whole 45-minute interview as far as I could tell. Probably I need to go back and watch it again. I'm still stuck at, do I really want to go and make a video about this? You know what I think I will do is I think that it would be a little bit of a push to try and get that done before next Monday. So I'm going to work the way that I know how to work, which is to do the most important thing first. And the most important thing first is that I've made a commitment to make a video about this laptop dock that actually is a useful thing for, I don't know how many of you are trading with laptops, but if you have a laptop, it is like a useful thing, I think. And so I should do that first. And then I should make sure that I have the script written for the Smart Money Concepts video, and then I can do that one. And maybe I'll be like super late and not relevant on the video and everything, but that's okay. Trump was a member berries. The thing that I find interesting about it too is that, like, in many respects, it kind of feels to me like Trump is like off his rocker lately. Like, he's just not the same guy since he lost the election. I feel it seems to me that, like, he was getting some help from his family, something along those lines that was really helping keep him grounded. And after he lost the election, that just left. And now it's been all Trump, unhinged all the time. And they, like, when I read his tweets on Truth Social, I'm just like, what is with this guy now? Right? But that's not what you see when he's interviewed. He's super sharp still. You know, like, you'd be tempted to say, you know, well, he's getting old and he's just off his, but that's not the case. He's as sharp as he ever was. If you were called the Seth, you would be called narcissist. Well, I think that because of, I mean, this is a weird thing, because what you're going to see in a person like me is kind of, at the same time, strong elements of narcissism, but then strong elements of absolutely not narcissism, right? I mean, I do think highly of myself, but I'm also extremely weary about, like, you just have too many experiences of where you're just dead wrong that you don't completely trust yourself when you have ADHD. That's an ADHD trait, is with ADHD, you are compelled to be humble, is how I would put it. Like, you're not, like, naturally going to be a humble person, but you eventually learn that there's just absolutely no way that you're going to navigate through life successfully without humility. I think that's maybe why Vivek rubs me the wrong way so much. Because when I look at Vivek, I see a person who's never had to swallow even an ounce of humility in his entire life, and it makes me sick. No, you think your reaction to the debate are pretty valid? Well, thank you. I do think I think that the thing is I think back to the video that I made about the last election with Andrew Yang, and I thought that was a good video and it did pretty well, you know. And so I'm kind of sitting there like I would like to make more content like that. But I've struggled so much to make content lately, it's hard. One thing I could do, because I feel like my delivery here on the stream has been pretty good. Maybe what I should do is I should just edit this stream and make that the video. But this isn't a fight today. This is all us agreeing that we got to keep the country's crap together. I can understand why you like Haley. Agree that with your criticism of others. Okay. We asked your coworkers what's your opinion of Seva. They would probably say that sometimes he's not paying attention, and I think the thing is that in the modern age of social media, like, everybody's a narcissist to some extent. Like, you have to be narcissistic in order to have any success on social media, you know? It's just like, But it also turns into this like, so everybody starts projecting narcissism on everybody else without acknowledging it in themselves, right? And I can definitely see where the more narcissistic I behave, the more that people seem to go along with it and like the content, which like really bothers me. And I saw that early on during the COVID era and kind of like backed away from that kind of content. It turned into, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I tell you what, that was one in my thoughts yesterday. I need to write this in my journal. And have I shown you guys? Oh, the camera's off still, huh? Let's see if how much battery we've gotten in those few. Oh, it's like not even. You wouldn't even be able to see anything. I went and I got this really nice journal. Because I've written in like composition notebooks before, but I had this pen that was like supposed to be a really permanent pen, but it was blue, and I just didn't like the way that it looked. I felt like it was hard on the eyes to read it and everything, and I just really wanted like a really dark, solid black. And so I went and did all of the research and found these Sakura pens. So in the comic industry or like manga and stuff, a lot of these guys, they use these Sakura pens. Apparently, all of the best stationery is designed for Japanese women. It must be like a really popular hobby for women in Japan or something. So I get these Sakura pens, and then I went and I found a notebook. And it's a fairly girly notebook. Like, I saw the choices, and they all had like these little butterflies and stuff. And I was like, that doesn't really grab me. But this one that's like the stars and it's purple. You know, purple's not my color, but that's the coolest one. And it'll make my wife jealous because my wife loves purple. That's just her favoriteest thing in the world. And everything that we get her is purple. So I got that, and it has really, really thick cards. I wish I could show you guys here. Really, really thick cardstock paper so that the Sakura pen doesn't bleed through. And so you just get really sharp letters. And I've been trying so hard to write well. I don't think my handwriting is that great, but it looks okay. And I need to write about this. I've been writing these sorts of things in there. But that was kind of the thing that I was thinking about yesterday. I feel like I just spent so much time reminiscing about making this notebook that I like completely lost the entire train of thought that I was going to go into. It's not worth it, as that's what I was going to talk about. So, like, for instance, one of the things that's going on right now is that young men are becoming increasingly more conservative, and young women are becoming increasingly more liberal. And my take on that is this. Guys, don't compromise. Do not date somebody that does not have the same values as you. My values, when I'm looking for a relationship, my primary interest is in raising up the next generation of people and setting them up so that they can be even more successful than us. And if she's not interested in that, I'm not interested at all. Don't compromise. And now that's a problem, because if you can only date a conservative woman, that really narrows the field down for you, because there's like half as many of them as there are hard left liberals, right? And so it's really easy to say, well, yeah, but I want some poon. And I shouldn't use that word. I shouldn't say it so I know that some people say that, but you know, they say I want to get some, and I'm willing to compromise on my values and just go along with whoever will give me the interest, and I'll just say whatever I need to say in order to convince her to be with me, and put my politics aside for it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I promise you, it's not worth it. is so much, it is so rewarding to be in a relationship with somebody that shares your values and is willing to work hard in that relationship, despite whatever difficulties that you have. It is so worth it. And if you compromise on the values, you're just going to hate every second of it. I promise. It's not worth it. And it's this same thing on the other side, which is like, yeah, there's things that I could do here on the YouTube channel that would probably be significantly more effective at making the channel successful, but they will not lead to happiness. They're not worth it. They're not worth doing. It's only worth doing it the right way. And if the YouTube algorithm doesn't want to give me that success without me having to compromise on it, then I'm not interested in having it. Don't compromise on those things. They're, you know, when you're in politics, you got to be smart, you got to be tactical, but you don't compromise on the values. Opposites attract. Have you seen this whole thing about, like, why is it that the hot goth chicks always go for real conservative men? Do opposites attract? I don't know. I saw this thing about liberals that, like, oh, hold on. I think that it just inserted some ads, didn't it? Because I just saw this thing pop up on my screen. Ads inserted. See, can any of you hear me speaking right now? Nobody's responding. I think that means you're all watching advertisements. Oh yeah, Uzi says yes. Oh, you have ad block. And I can see the view count goes down. So that to me really strongly suggests that I should turn the auto insert ads feature off, doesn't it? While you're saying this, I am seeing a sexy woman with a thick Russian accent across the street. I see premonitions of Ukraine's destruction when I... Well, Russian women tend to be very conservative, so... This is one of those things that I find really bizarre. Americans just do not understand the culture in Russia right now. It really is a far-right regime. So here's the thing you got to understand about this on politics. I really wish that more people understood this, because I see so much conversation about this particular thing online. And it's because I don't think that people understand this concept, okay? There is, like, conservative policy, and then there is conservative culture, and they are separate things, okay? And it is entirely possible to have a political movement that is conservative culturally, but liberal policy-wise, okay? World War II Germany, we don't use the names of them because the algorithms hate it, okay? But World War II Germany was conservative culturally and liberal politically, right? Because when you look at how did he garner the support and everything, it was a reverence of the past, tradition, strong leadership, these sorts of things. But then what was the policy? They were practically socialist policies, and, like, government takes over all business. They were not conservative positions. You can be liberal policy-wise and conservative social-wise. Okay. Now here in the US, it's, you know, it's both. The conservative policy and culture are found together. Okay. But in Russia, right now, Putin is 100% in on the conservative culturally to like an insane degree, like obsessive degree. And it very much colors the way that they look at the world. This is where, you know, like Nikki Haley said this in the debate, like, you're being really super naive about like what Putin is doing here, because he 100% is, his goal is to try and recreate the Soviet sphere of influence. What about markets? Yeah, well, I probably should. I feel like we've said everything we can say about that, huh? And I'm kind of feel like that there's not a whole lot to talk about. Well, I do have a political channel that I want to put a video up on. I guess I'll do it. I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to have to work hard here. Focus, Seth, focus. Tomorrow's going to be a big day for markets because of the Powell speech, right? So I'm really hesitant to like get too involved in the markets. But holy crap, Nvidia. Have you guys ever seen anything as wild as the Nvidia stock these past few days? Because oh man, I've never seen a stock where like, okay, oh sorry, hold on. Parker is speaking at the moment. Nah, I don't think that Tesla quite matches it. Because like, here's the thing. I look at Tesla, right? Okay. And that was like this is going to turn around at some point. Like, I don't think that these valuations make sense. It's like way crazy overbought. The only reason that people are going into it is because it's going up, and eventually this is going to collapse. And it probably goes on a lot longer than anybody thinks, but eventually I think that they're going to come back. And they did. And if you were short, you made so much money. Like, because Tesla collapsed back down in a pretty spectacular manner. Of course, they're still okay. They're still okay, but I felt that the fall of Tesla was pretty spectacular, right? Tesla is not the same thing, man. Tesla is just as overcrowded of a trade, and they just absolutely smash all earnings and pop the whole market up 5%. How did they do that? How is Nvidia pulling that there is really just that much growth in that space? It is mind-blowing, and I've never seen a stock anywhere even close. Like, when it's the popular stock, when everybody's talking about it, like right now, that's the top usually. And I don't think this is the top in Nvidia, probably not even close. They might pull back, but that's a high growth segment. And it's in the future, it's probably only likely to get stronger. YouTube really wants you to use ads. Let me show you this. So I'm going to come over here, and you go into edit and monetization. You can let YouTube insert mid-roll ads for you, and then you can choose conservative, balanced, or aggressive. And I had it at balanced, and I didn't like when it was inserting ads. So then you can say, choose how mid-roll ads appear. Schedule mid-roll ads at a set frequency, or insert mid-roll ads manually. Was the only option. I wish that it was just like mid-roll ad at the beginning and that's it. Because the last thing I want is I'm talking about something important and then you miss it because the ads come in, right? So I think what we're going to do is we're going to set it. I think we did our experiment, and we're going to insert mid-roll ads manually, and I should take breaks. We're kind of past the time to have a break today, but I'm going to do it because I can totally see where like the ads come in and the viewer count goes down and stuff like that. So we don't want that. We don't want that. I'm glad that I did the experiment for multiple days to figure that out, but my conclusion is that turning that on is not good for your stream. Harker is still speaking. I don't know. The market does look like it took a jump off of that, doesn't it? Okay, whoa, what's this? Yeah, New York Post, the right stuff. How refreshing. GOP candidates hold serious debate on issues that matter. Can you see that divergence? Like all of the pro-Trump side of the party thinks this is all ridiculous and like, why are we even having debates? And everybody else loved it. 3 years later, we're still at 220. Yeah, but like, look. Where's my chart here? BRICS expanding, gaining momentum to threaten the dollar? No, probably not. Oh, wow. Why? So I didn't have AMC up, but you were out. You know, you asked about it earlier. I think it was Keller asked about it earlier. Remember when we were talking about like there was that gap? Man, look at how terrible it's done since then in the past week. Whew, that's ugly. That's a way ugly chart. Oh my gosh. That's like, I mean, the way the technical analysts would read that is there's a gap and they tried to fill the gap and failed. Whew, that's ugly. Well, we wanted to look at Tesla, TSLA. Okay. So when you come and you look at this stock, right? This whole thing right here to that point was like a pretty spectacular fall, right? That's more than a 50% decline. Yeah, you can come back here and you can say, well, but this is like about where they were before 2020, and they've recovered a lot since then. Okay, but the thing that I'm trying to point out is that when you have a stock with this much interest, you're usually at a high. You're usually at a high. And in order for NVIDIA to be following the same pattern that I've seen almost every other stock do, they need to be right here at this, where it's going gangbusters high, and then that's the end of it. But when you come over here and you look at NVIDIA, it is not the same chart, man. There was a huge gap, and then anybody that, you know, it was like, well, I think it's too rich for you to get into, and it just keeps going. Just keeps going. Okay, anyways, BRICS expanding, gain momentum to threaten the dollar? No. So there's two problems here with this. Okay. Number one is that what's going on with the BRICS doesn't really displace the role of the dollar. That is to say that the dollar is the stable place, and it continues to be the case. Like, there's a lot of problems in the United States, right? Like, there's a lot of inflation and all of these problems. And so you would say, well, won't people leave the dollar and everything? Well, no, because every other country is even worse at the moment, right? Everybody in the West kind of had these problems, and it's like a worldwide problem, and the United States still ends up being the best of them. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that like this BRICS currency that they're creating is gold standard. They're saying it's going to be a gold standard. The gold standard is not not this thing that people think it is. Okay, it's not going to go well for them. Okay, so Harker is speaking dovishly at the moment. He's saying, I think that we'll leave rates where they are all this year, and then maybe next year we can reduce them and if inflation comes down. That's what Harker is saying. So absolutely why. Now, I really don't like taking trades when Fed speakers are what's driving the market, because it can just like flip on you so fast, but it looks like a long to me. Jimmy Oreo says, funny how everyone who's all in on a specific candidate is 100% sure that their candidate won the debate. Yeah. Yeah. What's Nassim Taleb going on about here? Nassim Taleb, books that endure don't look like good books. They are almost always very poorly written but address fundamental topics. Masterfully crafted ones generate excitement. They look like great works, get prizes, impress academics, critics in empty suits, and then fade away. This sometimes applies to the same author. The worst written pieces are the ones that are extant. The Aristotle's Rivers of Gold stopped being copied, similar to restaurants with a view serving poor food and vice versa. Samuelson on Keynes' General Theory. A badly written book, poorly organized. Any layman who bought it was cheated of his 5 shillings, not suited for classroom use, arrogant, bad-tempered, polemical, abounds and confuses. In short, it is a work of genius. What matters for a book is depth and relevance, which is extremely rare, plus internal, not external coherence. Books that have them don't need the cosmetic shift Many books are deemed well-written ex post because they turned out to be successful and influence the narrative and norms. Plus, styles are fads. There's no objective metric. For instance, now he's talking about stuff that I don't know. That's kind of a weird take, but I do not completely follow everything that he's saying, to be honest. So there was this guy that came in. I'm just thinking about it now. There was somebody that came into the stream that was trying to give me a hard of a time. And I remember him from like way back, and he tried to give us a hard time. And he was like saying this stuff on stream or on one of my videos. It was like, well, you edited the videos or like, you know, deleted people's comments or something like that. No, I didn't. I kind of half expected him to come back today, and he didn't. So I don't know what was it. That was kind of a weird thing. I think that he must have been might have been trying to post links, and you know, YouTube wasn't, you know, shadow bans those links. That's one of the most. I really wish YouTube. You know what? I really wish that when you posted links that you would just tell the person that posted them that you can't post links. The agreement between the BRICS is an alternative to the dollar, but will not replace the reserve currency. Yeah. Now, it probably does have some relevance in terms of like international politics, though, right? Now, this gets into an extremely complicated topic right now, where there's a lot of change happening, and it's anybody's guess as to where this settles, but. Yesterday, as you may have heard, the Wagner Group leader, Mr. Prigozhin, was... do I want to say that he was unalived? That it was a murder? I mean, it seems to me like they shot his plane down and that it was an assassination. There's no confirmation of that, though, but he died. He died yesterday in a plane crash. Like... literally everyone predicted. So what happens from there? Well, here's something that you gotta keep in mind. Russia has been exerting a considerable amount of influence in Africa, for instance, in conflict diamond areas. And that's part of how Prigozhin, you know, making so much money is because of the amount of resources that they're pulling out of there, right? And the way that Russia is able to have that influence in those areas is because that's where the Wagner Group people are. And in fact, a couple of days ago, we saw one of the first videos with Prigozhin, and he was in Africa, doing his thing in Africa. So if they don't have that, you know, I don't think that they have control over the Wagner Group anymore, and the Wagner Group doesn't help Russia anymore. That means that Russia's influence in Africa is considerably weaker. Considerably weaker. And yes, this whole thing with the alternative currency is kind of along the same sort of thing, as that Russia and China are kind of trying to cobble together this coalition of countries that is like an alternative to the West. And I don't know if that's like all gonna fall apart, or if that's gonna get stronger, or where that goes, because it's just like chaos over there, and I can't, you know, it's hard for us to make any sense of it. All we can do is watch and see what happens, I guess. Okay, so I'm seeing more people tweeting, you know, Fed's Harker tells CNBC he expects no rate cuts this year. It definitely did jump on his comments, but it's almost all retracing, so... Well, I think it's time for me to go out and around there and see what people are saying. Okay, so hot air. The nearly Trumpless debate, Ramaswamy GPT. DeSantis rises, mean Mike Pence. Not DeSantis did not rise, but okay. Okay. In case you thought the Maui story couldn't get any worse, oh, I've got to hear this one. An adoptive mother found her deceased son clutching their dead dog in Lahaina, Hawaii, days after first responders allegedly prevented her from looking through that area. Les Vargas is worried for her teenage son's life after learning the wildfire fire spread to their neighborhood, CNBC News reported. She and her husband, Andres, reportedly rushed home and encountered a traffic standstill leading to her sprint. I was told, don't go, but I responded to my son. Holy crap. So he literally died because they wouldn't let her go in. That really, like, just totally killed my mood. I shouldn't have read that one. Okay. Who won the debate to see who? Well, why does the Babylon Bee have a story about this? Okay. Hot mess GOP primary debate season is underway. It was a hot mess. It really was. What the heck? From the New York Post. If you kill your landlord, why not collect rent from other tenants? What? I need to stop reading the news right now. Powell will not cut rates unless unemployment gets to 4.3%. That's not the time to go along with this is flushing out. So I'm really curious as to why you picked that particular number, because Powell seems to be incredibly reluctant to attach himself to specific numbers like that. And one thing that I would point to in particular is that we're getting some signs that employment is not as good as it appears, and that there's significant revisions coming in the pipeline that will kind of paint the picture that actually Federal Reserve policy has been having an impact on employment. And that's why I think that the Treasury market, or one of the factors behind the Treasury market kind of rallying a little bit this week. So I don't know where we get to 4.3% or how likely that is, or if that's really what's necessary. And it's kind of weird because I do kind of feel like economic weakness on the horizon from a lot of things that I've seen, but I don't think that means hard landing. I guess we'll see. Should I read this hot air analysis of the debate? I don't know if you guys would be that interested in it. Wow, the Treasury's like really came back. I'm so glad I didn't touch that. Because that's a pretty ugly pullback, isn't it? Okay. Last night finally gave us the answer to the big question of 2023. What happens when Republicans have a debate without Donald Trump? The answer, they find other issues to discuss. And for one night, with one exception, managed to offer answers from their own expertise rather than engage in petty insults and prepared tacklines. Yeah. It was a real debate. I enjoyed it. The one exception, Vivek Ramaswamy, who attempted to steal Donald Trump's act and spend the evening insulting everyone else on stage. At some point, many expected the other 7 candidates to go after the not Trump lane leader Ron DeSantis, but instead, the only real infighting involved Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, and Chris Christie, all of whom responded angrily to Ramaswamy's personal insults. Yeah, but I really feel like that those 3 started it. Like, I know that part of the thing was that he was kind of like really fitting in quick insults in there that I kind of missed sometimes because, families talking and stuff like that. But Mike Pence went after him like right away. We can expect the media to claim Ramaswamy got attacked because he's rising in the polls. Don't buy it. Ramaswamy got attacked because he engaged in artless personal insults, although one doesn't have to admit that Mike Pence started it. Okay, see, I'm right. Mike Pence started it. Ramaswamy had declared that only a new generation could fix the generation on stage had broken, to which Pence responded by insulting Ramaswamy more directly. Let me explain it to you. Let me explain it to you, Vivek, if I can go. If I can, I'll go slower this time. Is totally right. You know what? So I don't think it's the media that's going to say this, but the commentariat on Twitter and so forth are going to claim, and especially the Donald Trump supporters are going to claim, that Ramaswamy is getting attacked because he's their biggest threat. It's not that. It's that these candidates all see an opportunity. They smell blood. They know that if they can destroy Ramaswamy, that puts them on top. So the one that defeated the like super pro-Trump candidate, that's going to garner the support of the establishment and really help them. And when you're having that fight, like, it raises your profile. You get more time to talk. You get more name mentions. You get more points, more views on sound bites and clips on the news the next day, and so forth. Like Mike Pence is going to have a lot of time than I would have thought he would have got, because he engaged in that, and that's why they're going after Ramaswamy. Almost immediately, Ramaswamy didn't attack the new mean Mike Pence, but everyone, calling them super PAC puppets while calling himself a patriot who speaks the truth and the leader of a revolution. Later, he accused Nikki Haley of auditioning for the board of Raytheon, a rather iconic accusation considering Ramaswamy's own position as a wealthy rookie. I'm the only person on stage who wasn't bought and paid for, he said a few moments later, leading to a cascade of boos from the audience, which prompted Chris Christie into attacking him for his amateurish Trump impression. I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in the debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What a skinny guy with an odd last name is doing up here," was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on the stage tonight. So one of the things I want to point out, like with Chris Christie, right, is notice how relevant to what was going on what he said was. The Chat GPT line sounds like something that he was fed, but why would Chris Christie and his team have a prepared line for Ramaswamy like that? And this other thing, like, what's a skinny guy with an odd name doing up here? Vivek said that at the beginning of the debate when he had his first opportunity to talk. Instead of talking about the issue, he introduced himself. And that's what he said. So when Chris Christie says stuff, you can tell that it's like it's live, because he's responding to the things that other people are saying. And I don't get that from Ramaswamy at all. Like, very often the things that he's saying seem to be completely irrelevant to what they were talking about. Yeah, skinny shaming versus fat shaming. I didn't even pick up on that, but you're right. Let's right there. The Obama hug. And you will help elect me just like you did Obama too. Give me that big hug, brother. Okay, that part probably was. Well, there you go. Yeah. Oh, okay. I that was Ramaswamy that said that. And you will help elect me just like you did Obama too. Give me that fat hug, brother. That is totally a prepared attack line. And yeah, kind of a lame one. I don't know. Okay. So here's Ed Morrissey again. Christie's dismissal will stick too, since Ramaswamy's other answers really did sound like ChatGPT regurgitations. Even his best answer on education late in the debate was nothing more than a string of slogans mainly rehashed from DeSantis, Youngkin, and others who actually have succeeded in these areas. The reason that this was his best answer is because it was one of the few in which he didn't personally insult someone on stage, and so Ramaswamy managed to offer a complete thought. Yeah. Because I felt like that when he was getting into it with him, especially when he was going at it with Nikki Haley, that he was stumbling all over his words and stuff like that. His worst moment came after Nikki Haley, after the Raytheon comment in which she dressed him down for his inch-deep thinking on national security, calling him out on his claims that the U.S. could both cut Israel and Taiwan loose of American security collaborations by 2028. You have no foreign policy experience, Haley declared, and it shows. And it did. Well, Morrissey is kind of an establishment guy, so keep that in mind with what we're reading here, right? And it did. Ramaswamy's entire night consisted of picking fights he couldn't win against people who actually have experience in the policy areas in which he claims expertise. He's the college kid who wants to tell his parents that everyone's a sellout, including themselves, and he's the only one who knows how the world works because he spent a few weeks studying Marx, Proust, or whoever was on the lit list that week. He's amateur hour, and the hour pretty much passed last night. The media wants to sell him, so expect plenty of he must be over the target to take this much flack. But it's nonsense. Anyone watching last night would not be impressed with Ramaswamy's ersatz. I've never seen that word before. Ersatz. I want to look it up. Product made or used as a substitute, typically an inferior one. Ah, I see. Would not be impressed with Ramaswamy's ersatz Trump impression. Not even Trump, since Ramaswamy didn't do what Trump would have wanted, go after Ron DeSantis rather than Christie, Haley, and Pence. So true. I'm telling you, I think that if Trump had been there at the debate, he might be running away with it right now. Anyways, in fact, Trump might be disappointed for lots of reasons. Bret Baier brought him up and did the silly raise your hand shtick on the other candidate, whether the other candidates would support Trump if he won the nomination. Christie and Asa Hutchinson demurred, but the rest raised their hands, and with the exception of Christie, tried changing the subject. Except for that subject, the name Trump barely got mentions, contra the claim earlier in the day that Trump would win the debate because the candidates would obsess over him. Christie got in his licks, but DeSantis scolded Baier and Martha McCallum for making this election about 2020. Yeah. And I liked what he said. This election is about January 6th of 2021. It's not about January 6th of 2021. It's about January 20th of 2025, when the next president is going to take office. See, he's so good at the first thing that comes out of his mouth is a good applause line. And he's able to say it confidently. The audience didn't seem terribly interested in this line of questioning either, and Trump as a topic got dropped fairly quickly and didn't rise again. Overall, with the exception of the infighting that Ramaswamy stoked with his junior league low-rent Trumpian insults, the night went well enough for most of the candidates and the RNC. The most important lesson from the debate is that the GOP exists outside of Trump and can have debates over issues without discussing him much, if at all, even when the moderators keep trying to bring Trump up. It's a good start for some, and for others, well, ... Here are my assessments of each candidate in the order of introduction last night. DeSantis, how did he escape without anyone else laying a glove on him? Two factors. He never took the bait from Ramaswamy, who seemed reluctant to take more than the super PAC puppet shot at him, and he stayed focused on his own record. The other candidates clearly didn't want to do Trump's dirty work for him by attacking DeSantis either. As a result, he ended up looking like the cool, calm head in the room, other than not offering Pence a gracious nod for his role in following the Constitution on January 6th, as others did. Minor error, but he did say eventually that he's everyone say that he gave him a nod, but he said he has nothing wrong with what happened. Okay. A minor error. DeSantis had a flawless national introduction. If all you're looking for is entertainment, you'll overlook that. But if you're looking for a serious nominee, DeSantis made a very good case last night amid the distractions of ... But I really think that DeSantis's stage presence is a big problem. Okay. But other than that, he's correct in that, like, DeSantis, like, did everything perfectly. and it just didn't seem to help him. Okay, Ramaswamy, I covered him well enough above. My final conclusion is that he'll fade out soon enough. There's no there to compel the kind of cult following Ramaswamy clearly desires. Chris Christie's ChatGPT comment will stick because it fits. He just regurgitates talking points from more successful politicians without any original thinking or useful experience of his own. Yeah. There's just nothing genuine about the guy. And like, so here's the bigger problem with Ramaswamy, to be honest with you. Who's going to vote for Ramaswamy when they can vote for Donald Trump, right? Like the truth is that the Ramaswamy base is going to vote for Donald Trump. Ramaswamy just ends up being like a spoiler, but I don't think that he's even a spoiler. Like I think that he's going to quickly, well, maybe not quickly. I think he's going to stick around, but I think that in the larger picture, he's probably going to be irrelevant, much like Andrew Yang was. Okay, Pence. Two Pences showed up last night, and neither of them did particularly well. There was the old Pence with the slow, stentorian delivery that in these kinds of venues has the aroma of self-importance, and there was mean Mike Pence tearing into Ramaswamy early and often, which was more entertaining but felt like a put on at times, as though someone told him to get aggressive. Pence needs to find a middle ground between the two, drop the self-important affectation, and put his expansive intellect and good nature on display. This guy is like using too many words. This is like way too highbrow, literati kind of for me. I didn't think that Ed Morrissey was like this. Okay. Haley easily got the best of Ramaswamy, had some very good moments in their fractured foreign policy debate, and offered some reality about abortion legislation. Her fighting persona came across more naturally than Pence's too. Haley never talked about her own track record in South Carolina, at least not memorably, which is a mistake. Overall, though, Haley offered a solid performance boosted by Ramaswamy's juvenile antics and made the case for commander-in-chief. She's probably the biggest winner, I think. So one thing I should point out was that before she got all of those good moments, like she was doing all sorts of friendly fire on the issue of the debt. You know, she was like, all of you Republicans, you added to the debt and this, that, and the other without any context about, you know, well, there was COVID and so on and so forth. And I really feel like Nikki Haley has this tendency to want to attack her own party and thinking that she's going to get kudos for attacking her own party. And it just doesn't work like that. If she can avoid doing that, she could do really, really well, though. Christie. People will groan reading this, but Christie had a great debate. He did exactly what he wanted to accomplish. He attacked Trump, and for a bonus, he exposed Trump's ChatGPT clone. He had the best moment in a gracious tribute to Pence, and he expounded forcefully and effectively on the rule of law. He even got one of the best laugh lines of the night. I get the UFO question. I know I'm from New Jersey, ... He didn't make a mistake. He was clearly the most comfortable person on stage, probably because he's such a long shot that the pressure is off. Yeah, I don't think he's going to win, but okay. Tim Scott. This is clearly not Scott's best format, and he struggled at times to get his answers organized, but he had some good moments. No, he didn't. It was very uninspiring. Scott's better walking the stage and speaking extemporaneously about hope and his life experiences, both of which he tried to weave into his answers. Still, Scott seemed to fade into the background for much of the debate and didn't really make much the most of the moments he had. Tim Scott scares you. He's such... I feel like that, you're talking about could you have a beer with them? I could totally have a beer. Well, I don't drink, but, He seems like a nice guy. I mean, that's kind of his problem. He's a little bit too gentle. Okay, Asa Hutchinson. I never saw anyone take so much time to say so little in a debate. He had to fight for his podium in this event, and at the end, one has to wonder why he bothered. Asa offered nothing new and nothing more than recycled insights from 2012 or so. Yeah. I kind of felt like the same. Now, Doug Burgum, was not the same thing. Oh, okay. Here, let's hear. Burgum was a surprise. after leg injury the day before, it wasn't clear he would show up. He had a couple of good moments early, especially on energy issues in China, and then again in the discussion on abortion. Burgum made the 10th Amendment argument to leave the issue to the states and offered a very good warning about what might happen if Republicans federalize abortion law. But he also faded in the last half of the debate and ended up closer to Asa's "why is he here" status. Well, so I thought that Doug Burgum had a lot of good moments that showed that like he really understood policy and was able to correct, I was glad that he was there. But yeah, he didn't really have very much time, and he's clearly not running to win. He's an also-ran that is hoping that maybe next time around he's a more serious candidate, or that he could be chosen for VP or something like that, This is, of course, it's just the first event in a long primary. We'll see the same people in the next debate, and then we'll see whether they learned anything. Yep. Oh, Tim Scott scares me as a non-Christian. I feel like Tim Scott is representing this worldview that doesn't include me, basically. Okay, so this is a difficult issue. Because I think you're totally right. Like here's the issue, Keller. Culture is a thing. Okay, so what is culture? Culture is like the shared set of values and knowledge that we use to interact with each other. Because your mind is a neural network, and it's taking information from the world, and that is the training data that your neural network uses to calibrate all of the nerve cells in that network. And they decide to make connections and so on and so forth based on this training data that you get. And so the culture is that shared bit of training data that allows us to interact with each other effectively. Because I can talk about something, and you know what I'm talking about, and your brain is going to be like on the same wavelength as mine. That's culture, okay? Now, the United States is, in some respects, a unique experiment in the annals of world history when it comes to culture. Because instead of the culture being based on a specific race or cultural group or something of that nature, it was based on these principles that are enshrined in the Constitution. A shared set of values that transcends religion. And in fact says that, the state should not explicitly adopt or push any one particular religion, right? Okay. But the fact is that the religious culture has always been there, and America has always been strongly, deeply religious Christian nation. And so that is the culture that is a significant part of the culture of the United States is Christian values, right? So Christian values are a large part of why the West has been so successful, to be honest with you, right? And if we're moving away from that, how do you replace it? And it doesn't seem to be going very well. Seems to me like that when people are abandoning religion, that the things that they're replacing it with are kind of turning out to be really destructive. So how do you get everybody on the same page? And the thing that I try to advocate is like, guys, it's important for you to be involved with your community. And one of the ways that we do that is through religion, is y'all go to the same church. And most small towns, there's two churches, but that's the thing. And that's where a lot of culture is shared, is at church. Where else is it going to come from? So, on one hand, I am kind of partial, I guess I could say, to these candidates who kind of put their faith at the forefront, because I'm like, well, that can be a good cultural thing for the United States and so on and so forth, right? But then the split side is you get this thing that like Tim Scott does, where like it really seems like that anybody that's not on board with that is going to be excluded, and it's even worse than that. So like something that's going on in my life right now is we go to church, and the eldest son doesn't really like church, and I say, well, you still have to go to church. I don't care if you like pay attention or that you believe it or any of that, but I think it's important for you to go to church and create connections with your local community. And I feel that he like sabotages himself. He's like, he doesn't think that anybody in his class likes him or something like that. And it's like, well, that's because you don't go. Like, there's nobody's out there to get you or anything. But because you think that you're going to fail, it like becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy or something like that, So it's kind of a difficult issue from all sides, right? And the thing that I advocate to people is, and I know that this sounds almost psychopathic, but I'm telling you, you'll see a real benefit in your life is just look at what the people in your area do and go along with the culture. It's better for you in the long run, okay? If you're in a small town and everybody in your small town is into horses, then you're into horses, man. That's because that's the people you came from. And you got to work with what you got to work with. My kids, I'm going to teach them about finance. They don't have to love finance. They don't have to go into finance when they're adults, but it's going to be to their advantage to go into it because they're going to know a lot more about it than their peers will be at the same age when they go when they turn 19, right? And that's a big advantage. This is where culture can benefit you. And yeah, that also extends to the church. Like, if you're in Utah, it's to your benefit to be Mormon. It just is. I would be Mormon even if I didn't live in Utah. I mean, I do believe it, but it's to this point. Like, if I lived somewhere else, I would still be Mormon, go to Mormon church, but I would try and attend events for whatever the popular church in town was. I would want to be as involved with them as I could. Like, I think it was, what's this bucket? I shouldn't use him as an example, but like if I moved to Ukraine or something like that, right? And they have Orthodox churches over there, right? The Orthodox church was doing something, I would show up. So I think it's important for you to have close ties with your community and to bathe yourself in the culture of the area that you're in, including the religion. So, I don't know. Take from that what you will. I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't have to exclude you just because you don't believe it. Because there's other benefits to it. You smell what I'm stepping in? Anyways. Well, the Treasury's behavior after all of this has been incredibly strange. This is now like the third kind of, like, we get like a real head and shoulders pattern here. It does look like it's over, though. I don't think that this is like, oh, it's going to go down to the lows now sort of a thing. Nah, I think that you're probably likely to just start distributing around 22. But it's time for me to get going. What should we put in for today's title? Debating the debate? Republican debate analysis? Sure. I'm just going to put the most boring description I can in there. All right, guys. It is time for me to get going. But tomorrow's a big day with Powell speaking in Jackson Hole. So I will see you guys then. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.